I have this piece of walnut which is in a perfect shape for a bowl. First I work it on the base after using this carving disc on my angle grinder for a few minutes. I made sure the base was flat enough to sit on. In order to carve the inside, I then drew pencil lines along the edges, which I will use as a guide to stop. For internal carving, I began using the same carving disc that I had used for the base, but it wasn't very effective for the inside. It didn't get rid of as much material as I had hoped. I switched to this one, which was just as good as the first one. I purchased this chain disc from a nearby store in the hopes that it would remove the materials more effectively, but it wasn't as effective as the ones before. That's why I gave up on the carving discs. I began using chisels to remove the inside, as this was quicker than using discs. As you can see, a single strike was enough to remove a lot of materials. I began in the center and worked my way out to the edges. This bench clamp was very helpful in clamping this unusual shape, so that it could be worked on. I returned to the carving discs for final shaping after using the chisel to remove the majority of the interior. I used all three here, but this one worked best for this task because it removed more and produced a smoother finish. At this point I started sanding inside using a sanding disc. After that I used this sanding disc to smooth it out using more advanced grits. These sanding discs worked well for removing the carving disc marks, but I made a sanding attachment for my drill to smooth it out and get to areas that the sanding discs on my grinder couldn't. I had this polishing attachment for my drill, so I connected some sandpaper to it and used it to sand the inside. The result was incredibly smooth and satisfying. Here I returned to the base to use this sanding disc to smooth it out. It's time to work on the outside, which doesn't require much effort. I used my drill's wire brush to clean the dirt because I wanted to preserve the wood's natural beauty. And I rounded the edges with this bit on my rotary tool. I then used 320 grit for the final sanding, which I did it by hand on the inside and the edges. To prepare it for the finish, I used an air compressor to remove the dust after sanding. This kind of oil is safe for use on cutting boards and kitchen gadgets. To allow the wood to absorb the oil, I applied it and waited for a few minutes before wiping off any excess. Here is the result. I hope you enjoyed the video and give it a subscribe. I appreciate you staying to the very end.